This video is the answer key for document number 10 and showing you both the correct orbital notation as well as the correct electron configuration. So notice here, this d orbital only has 5 electrons, 1 on each line facing up. So make sure yours looks just like this. And then in your electron configuration, particularly here, from the 3p6 you go to 4s2, then 3d10, then back to 4p. So making sure that you are bouncing back and forth and following that Aufbau diagram of how these electrons have entered these orbitals. Here is the notation for platinum with 78 electrons. Paying close attention to this 5d orbital where we have these 2 vacant spots here. Again, here is the electron configuration, particularly here, going from 3p to 4s to 3d to 4p to 5s to 4d to 5p. So over here, 6s to 4f14. I've done this by looking at my Aufbau diagram and writing these orbitals in that same order that those arrows tell me. On the back here, we had to actually draw in these orbital diagrams. Here is neon one more time with its orbital notation. Magnesium. These are 2 nice small atoms. Nothing too crazy about their orbital diagrams or notations. Titanium. Notice here in the 3D, we only have 2 electrons, but those 2 electrons are unpaired because I have to put 1 on each line. I run out after just placing 2, so I don't get a chance to actually pair them up. Looking at your notation, making sure that you go from 3p6 to 4s2, and then the final energy of 3d2. Phosphorus, another small atom, not too crazy of a diagram or configuration. 3p, those 3 up arrows. Moving on to antimony. This is getting a bit larger. So again, everybody's filled. The 5p here, I've got 3 up arrows, 1 on each line. Paying close to this order down here of bouncing back and forth between 3p, 4s, 3d, 4p, 5s, then 4d, then 5p. On to hafnium, I believe it's pronounced. Not really sure about that, but we have 72 electrons here. Looking at this 5d orbital, noticing that there are 2 up arrows, that I filled the 5s orbital before placing my final 2 electrons in the 5d. Again, I've done this by following that Aufbau diagram and looking at which orbital is first, then second, third, fourth, and so on. Also with my configuration, and I did the same thing, just looking at that Aufbau diagram with all the arrows and making sure that I'm following that order as I'm listing these out. And then just counting up the electrons that are on that orbital, like the 3D, and that's where I get my 10 from. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Finishing that out, particularly over here, you go 6s2, then 4f14, and then 5d2. So as we start using these f orbitals, the configuration down here gets really crazy with the bouncing back and forth between lots of different energy levels. But as long as you have that Aufbau diagram, which you will always have and be always permitted to use on any test or quiz, as long as you're following it, you're good to go. So I hope this helps. Please make sure that you have this completed and that you have the correct answers written, because in our activity on Friday, it's really imperative that you have these correct last electron configurations, this last notation in your configuration. This is going to unlock the pattern of the periodic table. So I really want to make sure that you have the correct answers before moving on. Thanks, guys.